Picture this. You're sitting there on a Tuesday morning, sipping your coffee, when suddenly your phone buzzes. It's a notification that $1,000 just landed in your bank account. And the best part? It's not because you worked overtime, it's not because you sold something on the internet, it's simply because you own shares in companies that decided to share their profits with you. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to demystify this seemingly impossible dream of making $1,000 a month in passive income while you literally sleep. I'm absolutely thrilled to walk you through the actual math and the strategy behind making this happen.
So let's dive into the source data, and right out of the gate, let's shatter some of those get-rich-quick illusions. Earning $1,000 a month in dividends? Yeah, it's not some overnight get-rich-quick scheme. But here's the thing that might actually surprise you. It's really not as impossible as most people think. The real question we found wasn't whether it can be done, but exactly how much capital is required to make it a reality.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be covering the passive income dream, traps versus dividend aristocrats, dividends versus total return, the dividend snowball effect, shielding wealth from taxes, and finally, your step-by-step plan.
Okay, Section 1, the passive income dream. Let's start by looking at the core mechanics behind this.
Before the math gets complicated, it is absolutely crucial to understand dividend yield. It works a whole lot like boring bank interest, except instead of a bank, you're getting paid by actual profitable businesses just for owning a piece of their company. Think about it. If you put money in a savings account paying 2% interest, you know exactly what you're going to get, right? Well, dividend yields operate on that exact same basic principle.
So the crucial point here is that to hit our target of $1,000 a month, we're really aiming for $12,000 a year in passive income. And the total capital you need to generate that 12 grand, that depends entirely on the dividend yield of the specific companies you decide to invest in.
And here is the magic number. At a conservative 3% yield, you need a massive $400,000 invested. I know. That is literally the price of a house just sitting there. But hey, before you panic and click away, we're going to break down exactly how time and compounding get you there and why taking risky shortcuts to avoid that number is a genuinely bad idea.
Which brings us to Section 2, traps versus dividend aristocrats. Let's see why chasing those shortcuts is a terrible, terrible idea.
If you're out there shopping for stocks, you might see Company A offering a super boring 3% yield, and Company B flashing a super tempting 12%. Well, that flashy 12% is often fool's gold. It's kind of like a clearance sale at a clothing store where everything is marked down 80% because, frankly, something is wrong with the merchandise. A sky-high yield usually signals a struggling company whose stock price has totally plummeted, or one that's just paying out way more than it can actually afford. On the flip side, that boring 3% yield, that offers sleep-at-night stability.
So how do we actually find that stability? Well, we avoid the roller coaster of sector-specific bets, like oil and gas. A lot of people who went heavy into those for 5% yields learned some very expensive lessons when market conditions suddenly shifted. Instead, we want to plant a massive, sturdy oak tree. We're talking about the dividend aristocrats. These are steady, highly reliable giants. Think Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson. They actually have a track record of increasing their dividend payments for at least 25 consecutive years. Now, a company like Coke might only yield around 2.5% to 3%, but its payouts are as reliable as gravity and they steadily grow over time.
Section 3, dividends versus total return. Before we figure out how to actually build that massive $400,000 portfolio, let's briefly compare dividend investing to its main alternative.
When you really look at the math, focusing strictly on dividends means we need that 400 grand to get our $12,000 annually. But a growth strategy, where a company retains its earnings to grow the business and maybe only yields 0.5% in dividends, might only require $200,000 in capital to get the same income. How? Well, by occasionally selling off small portions of those faster-growing shares. Mathematically speaking, the growth strategy can actually get you to your goal much faster with half the initial capital requirement.
So, if growth is faster, why do so many people absolutely swear by dividends? Simple, the psychological advantage. There is just something deeply, deeply satisfying about true passive income. Literally getting paid while you sleep, knowing actual companies are out there working hard just to send you checks. That emotional benefit of seeing physical, tangible cash hit your account, it feels incredibly real. And honestly, if receiving those payments is the thing that keeps you motivated to stick with your investing plan for decades, then that psychological win is practically priceless.
All right, Section 4, the dividend snowball effect. Let's look at how we actually make that huge target achievable through the magical mathematics of time.
When you get those dividend checks, whatever you do, don't spend them on takeout. The source material calls reinvesting dividends the closest thing to actual magic and a true wealth-building superpower. It's literally like planting a fruit tree, and instead of eating all the fruit right away, you take the seeds and plant them to grow an entire orchard. You're telling your money to go out and make more money, while you sit back and binge watch your favorite shows.
And this is where the ruthless mathematics of compounding become absolutely clear. Let's say you start with $50,000 in a 3% yielding fund. Year one, you make $1,500. Not exactly life-changing, right? But if you reinvest it, the next year your 3% is calculated on $51,500. Fast forward 10 years, purely by reinvesting those dividends, that $50K turns into nearly $70,000. After 20 years, it's pushing $90,000, and it's producing almost $2,700 a year in passive income. And remember, that assumes you never added another single penny. Now imagine combining this with regular small monthly contributions. That $400,000 goal suddenly doesn't look so far away, does it?
Moving on to Section 5, shielding wealth from taxes. Before you go counting your thousands, we have to address a hidden hurdle.
Taxes, yeah, I know they're about as fun to discuss as a root canal, but ignoring them is like planning a cross-country road trip without gas money. It's vital to remember that $1,000 in gross dividend income absolutely does not equal $1,000 in your pocket. If you hold these investments in a regular taxable account, Uncle Sam is going to want his cut. Your $1,000 monthly dividend might actually shrink down to maybe $700 or $800, which means you'd really need to generate closer to $1,300 a month just to net your target.
But thankfully, we have a cheat code. By placing your investments under the protective shield of tax-advantaged accounts like IRAs and 401ks, your dividends get to compound without dealing with that annual tax drag. This dramatically accelerates your snowball effect. Now, there is a catch, of course. You generally cannot touch this money without facing penalties until you reach retirement age. But for building long-term, heavily compounding wealth, this structure is an absolute must-have.
Finally, Section 6, your step-by-step plan. Let's synthesize all of this incredible information into a highly actionable roadmap. We've seen the math, we've seen the traps, so how do you actually start today as a beginner? It boils down to 4 simple steps. Step 1, open that tax-advantaged account to shield your growth. Step 2, practice dollar cost averaging. That just means investing small, manageable amounts every month. Maybe it's $500, maybe it's $1,000. You don't need $400,000 tomorrow. Step 3, use that money to buy broad dividend funds or highly reliable Dividend Aristocrats. Stay away from those spicy, high-yield traps. And Step 4, honestly the most crucial one, reinvest those dividends to trigger that beautiful, magical snowball effect.
Look, the path to $1,000 a month absolutely exists. And the thing you have to remember is that every single massive dividend portfolio out there started as someone's very first small stock purchase. So the final question isn't whether this math works. It clearly does. The question is, will you start building your snowball today, or are you going to spend another decade waiting for a perfect moment that just never comes? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Start small, stay consistent, and let those dividends work for you.